What's up, YouTubers? This is Ernie, Blerd Without Fear, and with Doomsday Clock, by the time this video comes out, it's either going to be right around the corner or already have just started. I decided, man, I'm a little late to the game with this, but let's talk about the build-up to Doomsday Clock. And to do that, what we're going to be doing, one of the first things we're going to do, is we're going to talk about The Button, which was a 4-part series that ping-ponged back and forth between Batman Rebirth and The Flash Rebirth. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now, there's a lot to unpack in this one particular video. This is just going to be the first part. I mean, there'll be a second part later, but there's going to be a lot to unpack, so I apologize ahead of time if this video is a little longer than what I usually post. So before we get started, if you have any comics you'd like for me to make a video about, hit me up in the comments. And if this is your first time checking out my channel, be sure to click subscribe so that way you can become one of Earth's mightiest subscribers and tap that bell button so you can become part of the notification squad. Okay, so here's what's up. We want to start with DC Rebirth #1, the one shot that pretty much kicked off this whole thing post New 52. The reason why I'm touching on this is because a little bit of Doomsday Clock begins in DC Rebirth #1. We know from following Wally West, original recipe Wally West, he's been stuck in the Speed Force and has been forgotten. And he's bouncing back and forth, reaching out to all of these different people, reaching out to all these different entities in the DC universe. He reaches out to Batman. He tries to reach out to a bunch of different people. And one of the people he reaches out to is Johnny Thunder, who at this point is in like an old folks home or some kind of mental home or something like that. And he tries to tell him, he's like, hey, you need to get the Justice Society back together. There is something big going on. There is some force, some presence out there that is out to get us, and they have stolen time from us. And Johnny Thunder completely understands what he's trying to say, but the thing is, he doesn't remember Wally West. So Wally West remains trapped in the Speed Force until he can reach out to Flash. But before he can get to Flash, we cut back to Johnny Thunder, and the orderlies are carrying him away. He keeps going on about a pen that he threw away, which now, for those unfamiliar, and I was unfamiliar up until this point, because I'm not familiar with the Justice Society at all. I mean, not a whole lot anyway. And this is one of those things I kind of pride myself on this channel. I try not to talk about comics that I do not personally read. And I've never been that big of a Justice Society guy. Just it's not because I think they're boring or they're bad. It's just that it's never really been my thing. I've read some of the books like throughout the years, but I never just super hardcore followed them. The pen he's talking about was the housing for a character by the name of Thunderbolt, which is a genie, and this is a power that he summoned by using this phrase, say you, which is not really spelled that way, but that's how it's pronounced. And this spell, this is kind of an incantation that he uses to summon the power of Thunderbolt. But unfortunately for him, he had a spell cast on him a long time ago that caused his ability to summon Thunderbolt to work maybe 1 or 2 out of every 4 times. So we see him constantly saying, say you, and this actually happens throughout The Button, and not just in the DC Rebirth one-shot. And what makes matters worse is that as he got older, his ability to summon Thunderbolt using the say you incantation diminishes. So it's gotten to the point now where, especially at the age he's at, if this spell was cast on him when he was, a young man, I think he was even a baby at this point, imagine now being a grown man, it probably doesn't work at all, even if he had the pen. And he can't get him to show up. And he's apologizing because he cast Thunderbolt away when he threw away the pen. He keeps constantly trying to say you, and nothing's happening, and that's why he's freaking out. And everybody thinks he's crazy because his powers actually have diminished. Another character that I almost missed in the DC Rebirth one-shot was Saturn Girl because, true story, I am not a big fan of the Legion of Superheroes. It's never been a book for me. I think I read it twice when I was a little kid, and it just never resonated with me. I think there was even a cartoon back in the day, and it just didn't work for me. But Saturn Girl is in police custody, and the police think she's crazy. And you would not really blame them for thinking that, because she is kind of saying crazy stuff. She keeps going on about the future, how she knows what's going to happen. She keeps talking about being friends with Superman. But the thing that really sends it home is that in their police evidence, they have a little Ziploc bag of her Legion ring. So we know she is who she actually says she is. But the thing is, the police don't know who she is. And we're just kind of waiting to see what's going to happen. So this is not just a Justice Society character that is locked away and no one believes who they are. We also have the Legion, a Legion character being locked away and no one believes who they are. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now, do not be surprised if we see the Legion and the Justice Society make their triumphant return to DC Rebirth with Doomsday Clock. I'm going to go ahead and call it right now. It may not be in their own titles, but I'm pretty sure they're going to factor heavily into it, at least those two characters. But in the end, Wally West finally catches up with the Flash. Well, he catches up with Barry Allen and is able to come back. He's able to be reawakened and brought back thanks to Barry's memories of him. So that is kind of one of the things that kicks it off. But the thing at the end of DC Rebirth #1 that really sells it is that Batman finds somewhere in the Batcave, wedged in between some rocks and tucked away, he finds the comedian's button from Watchmen. So that was kind of the first sign that everything was back. That was our first sign that the Watchmen are truly a part of the DC universe. We also get an epilogue where we see a watch that I'm fairly certain is Dr. Manhattan's watch from the actual Watchmen comic. And we also see a planet not unlike the planet that Dr. Manhattan was inhabiting and kind of remodeling in his image. As we're seeing images of Dr. Manhattan's watch being taken apart and put back together, we're witnessing a conversation between Ozymandias and Dr. Manhattan. Ozymandias is asking Dr. Manhattan, did I do the right thing? Yeah, Dr. Manhattan says that nothing ever truly ends. Now, if you've never read the Watchmen graphic novel, I can go ahead and tell you right now what they're talking about. What Ozymandias is referring to is the conclusion where Ozymandias and Dr. Manhattan colluded and created, well, depending on what you know Watchmen by, whether it's by the movie or by the original graphic novel. In the movie, they just created an explosion. In the comic, they created a giant squid monster that created chaos, killed a lot of people, but it galvanized all the superpowers, specifically the United States and Russia, because we're thinking about Cold War era. It galvanized them into working together instead of fighting against each other. And that was kind of the whole point of the Watchmen, is that, we were in this kind of era where we didn't know what was going to happen. It was kind of playing on the fears, the legitimate fears that people had, that we could go to war at any moment during the time where we were against Russia. All the deaths, everything that happened, the death of Rorschach, which didn't actually stick because Rorschach's journal got out, and because we never really see that at the end of Watchmen. It actually ends with Rorschach's journal getting to the press. But what we do know is that it did get to the press. The story was written, and Dr. Manhattan and Ozymandias' plan backfired. The United States and Russia didn't ally. It actually made things worse than it was before, and we also learned that Dr. Manhattan maybe didn't actually kill Rorschach. Because, we saw that explosion of blood and all this other stuff, but we know that Dr. Manhattan is way more powerful than that. Dr. Manhattan actually didn't kill Rorschach, or at least if he did, he resurrected him at some point. But what we do know is that Rorschach is alive and well. We know from a 12-page preview that they showed at one of the recent Comic-Cons that whether it is the actual character Rorschach or somebody pretending to be him, either way, he's still around to some degree. And Ozymandias is a fugitive from justice because of Rorschach's journal. So that is what I believe the conversation is, that Ozymandias and Dr. Manhattan are talking about, was it all worth it? Either way, it zooms in on the watch where we see it tick down to 15 minutes to midnight on the Doomsday Clock. And that was really when we got the big tease. So they've been teasing this since 2016. Now that we've gotten all that out of the way, though, we can actually take a look at the button. We jump into Batman Rebirth number 21, which is part 1 of the button, we see Saturn Girl in Arkham Asylum, and she has a freak out moment because she sees an event that she's seen before. She knows what is about to happen, and she starts freaking out because she realizes things are about to come to pass. She starts freaking out about how Superman won't come, and our friends will die, the Legion will die, and no one will stop it. She's completely freaked the hell out, which is kind of a weird turn, which something had to have happened because she seems so, like, reserved and calm about the fact that, you know, she knew what was going to happen. But now she's freaking out, so that should have you scared if you saw the DC Rebirth one-shot. That should have you thinking, oh my god, what made her turn on a dime like that? Now, we jump to the Batcave, and this is where we'll pretty much spend the rest of this issue, is he's analyzing the button and the blood that was on it, the blood splatter. And he's going through the whole thing, and of course he's also watching the same hockey game that was on at Arkham, but he's not really paying it any real attention. But we see in that something happens. We see the death that she was foretelling when she realized which game she was watching. And of course, Batman is, you know, he's fiddling with the button. He's checking it out, and he doesn't really know what to make of it. He sits the button down next to the Psycho Pirate's mask, and something happens. That button jolts with that mask, and out of nowhere just blasts Batman off of his feet. And when it happens, Batman actually gets a vision of his father, Thomas Wayne, but not the Thomas Wayne that, you know, he knows. It's the Thomas Wayne from the Flashpoint universe. So Batman reaches out to the Flash and says, hey, we need to unpack this, let's get together and figure this out. Because even though Batman's not a meta, he recognizes when something involving the Speed Force is happening. But of course, the Flash is busy fighting Samuroids, you know, like you do. And he says, hey, I'll be there in a minute. And right as Barry says he'll be there in a minute, the clock starts ticking. And out of nowhere, we see the same kind of special effect we normally see when Flash zips into a new area. And Batman's like, oh, well, dude, I know you said it'd be a minute, but man, I didn't expect you to get here that fast. And then we realize it was not the Flash. It was Eobard Thawne, the Reverse Flash, Professor Zoom, or whatever name he calls himself this week. And Eobard Thawne introduces himself to Batman, and Batman is no match for him because, well, Reverse Flash is a speedster no different than Flash, has a lot of the same powers, and Batman has a hard time with the Flash, let alone someone who can use those powers with reckless abandon. Eobard Thawne, while he was present in New 52, events have changed that have caused him to be reverted back to his pre-New 52 self. So he actually remembers being killed with Thomas Wayne, so he's here to exact his revenge on Bruce Wayne in turn. And he is beating the brakes off of Batman. I'm talking about he is beating him like he took the last big piece of chicken. And the whole time we're still seeing that clock tick down. And one of the things that really kind of strikes back to Flashpoint is that while beating the brakes off of Batman, he sees the letter that Thomas Wayne wrote to Bruce and sent back with Barry during Flashpoint. And he uses this as a method to taunt Bruce, and he even destroys the letter, which, you know, of course, you know, undoubtedly pisses Batman off. And Batman, being a creature of ingenuity, manages to trip up Thawne and get in a few hits before it's all said and done. But right before Thawne can get in the killing blow on him, Thawne notices the button. He picks up the button, and all of a sudden, he's teleported away. But within almost no time at all, he comes back, and when he does, he starts muttering that he saw God. Half of his body is fried with blue flame as he just falls limp to the ground, dead. And Flash arrives just in time to see Thawne die. Now, when we get into Flash number 21, Bruce is recuperating from the beating he took from Eobard Thawne. Flash is setting up a crime scene, and he's trying to work this bad boy down with Alfred's help. The thing that Flash and Batman unpack out of this investigation is that even though technically Thawne disappeared for only a few seconds, he could have been gone for days, months, even a year. And Barry, recognizing that Thawne is typically a man of science, he would be very hesitant to even think anything about a god. So whoever did this had to be somebody of incredible power. Thawne's body was completely irradiated, like there was a radiation signature that was just off the charts. This is also one of those areas where like they keep playing with you back and forth as to which Watchmen character is messing around with everything. And I mean, come on, we know that it's Dr. Manhattan. It's really the only answer it could be. But I love how they try and play coy about it. It's like, look, it's radiation. We know, if you've read Watchmen, there's an entire section of the entire graphic novel that goes over the fact that he emits radiation. And they even used it in a scandal against him to oust him and kind of kill his reputation in the public eye. So yeah, I mean, I'm gonna go ahead and put my vote in right now. It's the obvious one. It's Dr. Manhattan. Dr. Manhattan's an all-powerful being who is literally called the Superman. And he can literally do whatever he wants. Even the comedian says at one point that he could have turned the bullets to gas, he could have turned the knife into a balloon or some other craziness. I don't really remember the exact quote, but I mean, it's something along those lines. So I mean, it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility that he could manipulate time and space. And while they're comparing notes over everything that they found, that's when Batman reveals that he saw Thomas Wayne from the Flashpoint universe. And this is also one of those many moments throughout DC Rebirth where we find out that Flashpoint, though it did change a lot of things, and Flashpoint was created from Barry's going back in time and messing around with past events so that he could save his mother from being killed, there was something out there that was messing with time probably even before Flashpoint. And most likely, Barry may not have caused Flashpoint. Something else may have. And that's how they kind of tie in the New 52. They talk about the 10 years that they lost and all that stuff. It all kind of ties back in the New 52, those moments that they don't remember. So Flash goes and uncovers the cosmic treadmill back at the Watchtower. This is one of those things where it's like, we haven't seen this in a while. So the cosmic treadmill is one of those things that, if you're not familiar with it, it allows Barry to focus the Speed Force and use it as a conduit to allow him to do incredible things. Like, he can open up wormholes, and the past has been able to allow him to do time travel and all sorts of stuff. It's technically the same treadmill he uses to go back and cause Flashpoint. Batman arrives and reveals that he's going to go with him on this mission, despite the fact that he's still brutally injured from the beating he took at the hands of the Reverse Flash. And Batman lets him know, he's like, hey, look, there's nothing you can do, there's nothing you can say that's gonna keep me out of this. The Flash reluctantly is like, hey, fine, whatever, we're gonna make this happen. But the thing is, their main concern is not getting trapped inside the Speed Force. As Barry's traveling through the Speed Force and kind of having Batman piggyback with him, they see alternate histories, things that they've missed, things that have gone away, things that happened technically in the comics, but they don't remember them. Which would lead one to believe that those years are the pre-crisis years. The nearly 10 years that were taken from them, these are the years that they're talking about. Like, we see moments, especially even a moment from Crisis on Infinite Earths, and that kind of lets us know how far back this goes. And before we know it, the cosmic treadmill hits a snag, and in the blink of an eye, it goes off the rails, and they wind up crashing back into the Batcave. Only it's not their Batcave. This is the Batcave from Flashpoint. And it's in this moment that Bruce gets to meet his dad as Batman. And this is where we're gonna leave it. Man, this stuff is so crazy, there's so much going on here. Like I said, it was a lot to unpack, and I'm gonna try not to make this be an overlong video because I don't like doing those. I hate hitting y'all with those. I did it a lot for Marvel Secret Empire. I don't want to do it to y'all again with DC Rebirth. There was so much information. There was so much information to get out that I wanted to make sure that I got everything to you. So guys, what do you think about the button so far? What do you think about Bruce Wayne finally getting to meet his dad, Thomas Wayne, who is Batman in that universe? Sound off in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to click the like button. And if you want to see more awesome videos like this one, click subscribe so you can become one of Earth's mightiest subscribers, and hit that bell button so you can become part of the notification squad. Thank you again for watching this video, and I'll see you next time. Plus Ultra.